Welcome back to the Synergistic CX podcast. This is part 3 of our 3-part episode where we're focusing on fast food restaurants. In the previous 2 parts of this episode, we explored the key elements shaping the customer experience and also the customer journey map. And now in our final segment, we'll broaden the conversation with Daniel Cosgrove from Mercantile Systems out of San Francisco. He'll share his expert insights with us on the evolving landscape of customer experience. Dan, thank you again so much for being here on our podcast episode.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. It's been great so far. I really enjoyed the conversation, the dialogue, the statistics. It's been really, really enjoyable.
Fantastic. Well, I know Chris has got a few questions here to follow up with you.
Yes, I do, Erik. I'm really excited to have Dan here because we have been working on this podcast for a long time. And I will start by asking Daniel about your views on different research methodologies, data, and practical uses of AI. Your mystery shopping toolkit includes action plans, appeals, and AI training videos. How do these tools contribute to employee engagement and operational excellence?
Yeah, it's a great question. And let's talk about appeals and action plans first. We're a huge believer in them. Our clients are big users of them. And I'll say this, our clients that perform the best are the ones that are so engaged and are using that. And their team members are using appeals, meaning the team member gets an evaluation, they can appeal it, and we want them appealing it. Like when we do recordings and things, we want them listening to the recording and we want them appealing it. Like we don't want to be wrong on our end, and most of the time we're not. But we want the employee saying, no, I think I said this. Listen to this. I said this here and here and here. And then we'll do the research. And if we're wrong, we'll correct it. And if we're not, what more than likely happens is the employee doesn't clearly understand the nuance of the question. Like they're thinking they're answering it correctly when they're not, because corporate says it needs to be answered this way. And so it continually adds clarity. But probably more importantly, it's buy-in from the employee. The employee gets to say, I'm heard. Like I'm not just getting fed this tool that's saying I did good or bad, but I get to be heard. And an employee wants to be heard and know that what they're saying is being acknowledged. And they appreciate it when it's corrected. They appreciate when we say we made a mistake and we correct it. Like they know we're human, right? And so action plans and appeals are something that we embed with all our clients in every shop and then encourage them to use it. So jumping into AI. So you brought up AI. We're in San Francisco. So I'll say this, I'm 59. I'll be 60 this year. So I'm 59 forever. So what I went through the PC, so typewriters to PC. I lived in Silicon Valley. I grew up next to Apple. I watched and heard Apple. I watched people at the gas station driving Mercedes look different because before they were suit and tie. They were jeans, a button-up shirt, and topsiders. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And when I came to this Y in a road, like, which way are you going to go? I went towards mystery shopping rather than joining Apple. Like, that was a mistake. So I then watched the internet, Netscape, Google, and all that, stayed with mystery shopping. Okay. Today, AI. To me and the people I'm listening to and talking to is, it's probably going to be bigger than all of those put together. I firmly believe that. We're 110% in. I'm not missing this one. So we have teams and all that. And so it's just massive changes in what mystery shopping, training, role practice, analytics. It's huge. And it's so exciting what it's going to do for our industry.
So Daniel, this is really excited. I work a lot with AI as well. And this is the time for companies to really invest and try and test what works in their company, and it can have a huge impact in the customer experience. And you have so much experience already on this. So I was wondering if you could share with your audience how AI-driven training or real-time role play has improved performance outcomes for your clients.
Yeah, no, it's great. And, this is something, so for all the years I've been in this, I always looked at maybe buying a training company or starting a training division because it just made sense with mystery shopping, right? We go back to they hire, we measure, train, retrain, voice of the customer. Well, it made sense because we had all the data. Like we knew how their employees were performing. So why don't we train? but it wasn't scalable. And I always knew that if we had a team together and you had somebody that had a bunch of clients, that they'd eventually leave and probably those clients would go with them. It's just the nature of that business. Not right or wrong, it's just the nature. When AI came around, I was like, oh my gosh, oh man, this is amazing because we have the data. We've got the recordings. We've got all that. So today what we're doing is, and we've been with this for about 2 years. So we really are beginning with AI when ChatGPT came out and generative AI came out. To give you an example, what we can do is we can take a recording of an interaction. It could be at a QSR, it could be at a restaurant, it could be at a storage facility, a home building, it doesn't matter. We can take that voice interaction, turn it into text. Let's get turned to what's called tokens. We get a little bit deeper, we probably need to, and then run that through the AI. Now we build a playbook based on the customer's needs. So the AI listens for that team member to see if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then it creates a custom training video based on that interaction. So now we built a training video based on a one-on-one interaction, in this case with a mystery shopper, but it could be a customer. It could be downloaded from your call center data, it doesn't matter. And then we can share that with a team member. And it's bespoke, meaning we can do it as long or as short as you want. We can cover as many topics as you want. We then can collect data behind that by an action plan. We create an action plan that team member then says, okay, I have this training video I need to watch. How did I do? It'll pull out questions for them to perform, to say, how can you do this better? It'll then go far and we'll build what's called a role practice, meaning we will build an actual role practice based on that interaction. And we can hierarchy driven it, meaning if you have 10 things you want your team member to do, 1 through 10, we rate them. If they miss which one of them and it's high on the list, that's the role practice that they can do. And that role practice is truly interactive. It's flipping amazing. Because of LLMs and the way it works, it's going to think and it's going to be different every time. It's going to say, hey, Brianna, let's role play on this. I'm the customer. You're the employee. I'm walking in. I need to know this. And it'll go back and forth. And we prompt that to do that. It can stop after each interaction and say, you did this good, but we want to do it this way. You did this good. We want to do it this way. And finally, the most amazing thing in my mind is we're going to capture what that team member says. Meaning, Brianna, we're going to role play on this situation about insurance. Tell me about insurance. And Brianna's going to say, blah, 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 blah. We're going to capture that. We're going to know what your team members always say every time they're asked that. And it may or may not be what you want, but the most important is that we now know what they say and we know what they're thinking. And when we know what they're thinking and saying, we can then change and redirect into the way you want to. And that's what all this is about and what we're working on.
So then, now moving closer to the main topic of this episode, fast food restaurants. In your view, you're clearly an expert in this field. What are the most pressing customer experience challenges that quick service restaurants are facing today?
Yeah, it really, like I said earlier, they face a lot of headwinds, but you're looking at all the dynamics and the changes within the industry. Before we used to walk in and order, and then came drive-through. And like that was probably drive-through was cool. Wow, drive-through. And that was probably 10 years before another change happened. They could perfect that. But today, things change so fast. So, we got all these delivery options. Do you as a chain deliver your own food? Do you use a third party? Do you use a combo? How do you manage that? It's all the experience based on your name. So is that third party getting it out there in time? If they're not, why? How do you measure against that? How do you hold them accountable? How do you modify the guest experience? Is really the guest coming in by using a kiosk the best guest experience? I mean, is it really a guest experience? I mean, is the guest experience interacting with the team member? Can you do that? Can you swing it? When you're getting pressure on wages, having to have 401ks, medical, all those things. Like these jobs originally were not supposed to be careers for people. They really weren't. They were interim jobs from high school to move on to something else. But, in some aspects, we're trying to make them careers and pay as such, and that's just not going to work. So that's creating efficiencies to eliminate more people and eliminate contact. And how do you then create a good customer experience with eliminating contact with people? And that's the things they're facing. And it's changing like this, right? If all of a sudden I'm not doing that and they are, I'm losing out. We saw that with marketing with this new product that came out, this 3 for something. I forget what they call it. I can tell you what they call it, But all of a sudden, then you see everybody else jumping on the bandwagon with some variation of that. And it's like, so we jumped on their idea because it drove sales 15%. So we have to jump on that now. And that's how fast this stuff changes and what's going on. So there's so many challenges within this market, and then to figure out pies, like how much resources we have, and then if we're public or private, and if we're public, we're driving stock price, and what does that mean? And if we're private, we're going for value, or what are we going for? And so there's just lots and lots of things that are going on in this space.
Yeah, and you're talking before about, some of the challenges in terms of high staff turnover and narrow margins, particularly in the fast food restaurants. Where should these brands focus first to drive lasting customer experience improvements? The quick wins.
Yeah, the quick win. The quick wins. Well, I think their food is fine, right? They're so consistent on their product. As far as customer service, and if we're talking about interacting, we're talking about, let's just say this, get it right? Get it right. Get the napkin in the bag. Get the straw. Don't make me go through drive-through, drive out, and not have a straw, or a napkin, or a spork to do my mashed potatoes. Like, come on, man. We can't do that. I can't not have my spork, and then I got to either go in, eat it with my straw or the lid or some crazy thing, and it's horrible. And it's these little things that if we can just get those right off the bat, like it's the reason why your chains that aren't the largest, they're big, but it's reason why when you go through drive-through, you connect with a person at the very beginning. Like they're not in the cube anymore, right? They're outside. Mm-hmm. They're talking to you, getting your order right. Sometimes you'll have a second touch of confirming it, and then a purchase, and then a pickup. Like, right? They got to get it right, and they know that. And so that's probably the biggest thing. Obviously, we aren't taking economics into place and how do you swing that, afford that, and all that. But that's some of those little basic things like get them right.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I have an example of another industry from a client that have defined, the 10 basic principles that can never fail in the customer experience. And actually in the Mystery Shopping survey, those questions, they never add up to the scores. In the contrary, if they fail, it will deduct points from the score because they consider it so critical that the store should not receive any extra credit just for making the bare minimum for the customer experience. So it's really interesting. Yeah, and I totally agree with your view, making the basics right.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the QSR space is so challenging. I don't know if I'd be accurate if I said it's more challenging than full serve today, but it can't be much less and maybe more. You think it's not. Again, like I said before, when you drive by these places, you think, oh, they're so simple. I'd love to own a Burger King or McDonald's. I'd be rich. And I'm like, oh, heck no. You know how much is going on inside that place, the nuances of all the components, and being a business owner, you know what that's like. And you're like, oh man, it is fast changing. It's fast paced. It has all this going on. And on top of all that, you're serving food to the public. Like you're serving an item to the public that's got to be correct and cooked and proper, or people can get sick. And that adds a whole nother level. We aren't even throwing in if you're going to decide to add in alcohol or things like that. So it is complex.
So then those are very interesting perspective. And now I have the perfect bridge for my next questions. And what is the impact of leadership and company culture in customer experience? So from your perspective, what leadership habits or cultural traits differentiate quick service restaurants, brands that consistently deliver great customer experience?
And first, I want to preface when I'm talking here, I'm not knocking anybody that's not doing that, and particularly the large people, because they're playing different games here. They're serving the public, quick serve types restaurants, but there's different things that are going on in nuances and economics and things. So just because I'm going to talk about leadership and how the ones that we're working with that do these things dynamic, I'm not knocking the other ones. It's just a different way. So let's talk about the customer that we're working with that are dynamic and that are focusing heavy on guest experience. Like that's a massive part of their industry. It's bred in. It starts from the top. Like if your CEO doesn't believe, it's not going to happen. like he's got it, or she's got to permeate it down, and they have to be 110% behind it. And when they are, you know that. Like they're hiring the people that believe the same way. Like it's not uncommon for me to be on calls with our clients and their backdrops have, talking about customer service, and everything is focused that way. When we do mystery shops, they might have questions within there. They might have maybe we did something incorrect in there, or maybe we put something in there that wasn't derogatory, but wasn't what they want. They're not trying to change it like, oh, we always do that. No, they're saying our culture is this, we're doing this. Let's remove that, but we value this thing that's going on and we're going to address that. Like we've had chains that have been the other way. We had contacts that have been like, oh, we never do that. We never do that. And you're like, after 10 or 12 times, like, we know you're doing that. Like, but if you don't want to believe that, then we'll change your score. You can go on and do what you want, but we know where you're going to end up. The ones that really, really buy into all of that, they understand that just not measuring one piece to check a box is important. Like this is my job. I got to check the box. Here I go. Like they understand, wow, we didn't know that. We never thought about measuring. The ones that truly are entrepreneurialistic in a mindset, and that could be the team members, and the ones that look at all those caveats, that are curious. They're curious about how that would happen. And I go to that fact about delivery. When you're talking about third-party delivery, like you got to dig in to find out why, even though you might not be able to solve it. Maybe it's that third-party delivers issue, but you need to know why it's happening. And you need to make sure your store is doing what it can to get it there and then address from there. But you've got to know why. You can't just check the box. And so it's the ones that are truly 110% bought in. Team members know it, and you feel it when you're at their locations. Like team members like each other. They're proud of what they're doing. They're recognized for what they're doing. Those are the ones and the clients that really excel.
Yeah, indeed, it's a strategic view. And but based on your work across industries, what can fast food brands learn from other sectors in terms of agility, insight application, or employee engagement? That is one of the most burning points at this moment.
Yeah, you kind of said it, but not maybe knowing you're saying it. They need to look around what other people are doing. It's not uncommon for us to get a client that has team members that have been there 10, 20, 15, 10, 15, 20 years and have never gone to a seminar, or have gone to seminars, but only within their space. Like they don't look around. Like, what is hospitality? What are hospitals doing? Like we brought in double verification years ago to full serve restaurants, particularly their bars. What's called double verification in a hospital is I go in, I'm going to get an operation, whatever. I show my ID, and then they ask to me to confirm my name, date of birth, address, things like that. Double verification. Well, when you're talking about serving alcohol, do you say, let me see your ID? And that would be it. Well, double verification, let me see your ID, and then ask them questions. So when you start to look into other industries and bring in like, oh my God, look what they're doing. How could we bring that into what we're doing? That's huge. And one of the successful things, and one of the things I love about us and this mystery shopping, not mercantile, this space, is we get to touch all these different industries, and we get to see what they're doing and grab and bring them in over here. And there's lots of things that can be done and brought in. And I guess my business suggestion is look around, go to their seminars, go to their places, and see what else you can bring into your industry to make it more dynamic.
So then you have worked with some of the most dynamic clients in this industry and others as well. And I was wondering if you could share with our audience if there is any project or moment that stands out as a powerful example of customer experience transformation.
Yeah. This one I always remember, and I share it a lot when I speak. It was with a very large hospital, very large, just did $1 billion renovation. And they brought us in to measure the different touch points in different areas: phlebotomy, ER, the desk. They had valet service. I mean, it was an amazing, amazing hospital, first class, like the Ritz-Carlton. They even subscribed to the Disney school of everything was done underground and out of the way, so you couldn't see these things moving on. And so what we did first is we went and we worked with the team leaders, and we built a mystery shopping program on what we want to measure. And then we didn't tell anybody. We went out and actually measured it. And then we brought those scores back. And then we brought all the team, including those departments, into a large meeting. And we said, hey, listen, this is what we did, everybody. We went and measured you based on these components. Here's how you did. It wasn't all that great. Okay. Two things we did. One, we talked to each department. We said, of these things we measured, what is key to you? What is it that you like? What do you think we should change? And some of that came out really good. We made some changes, we kept some things, whatever. The next thing we did is said, can we agree to get to 90% in 90 days? And for every time you get a survey, will you give a team member a $5 Starbucks card and pat them on the back? And they said, yeah, we'll do that. So we deployed all these mystery shops, every week, every month for several months. So about 2.5 months into it, I had to look at the data because I was going to bring back and present. And so I pull up the data and I look at all the departments and I see scores 92, 94, 95%. And I'm like, oh my God, our data's wrong. Something's broke. Like it's really not hard to get to 90%. Like it's not hard to get to a boat to do 98 miles per hour, but it's hard to get a boat to do 100, 102, 103. You want to go 105 or 110, you're spending thousands and tens and hundreds of $1,000s a year. So when I saw 94, 95, 96, I'm like, something's wrong. We did some research. Our data was right. We went back and talked to them. We presented the data and we said, how did you get here? What did you do? And they said, we bought into it. We were able to share our feedback. We liked what we were getting. We did the $5 card. We talked all about it and connected with it. And that's how we got there. And I was like, man, I was shocked. Like it's what you want as a vendor, right? Like, oh, we really did a good job. Let's face it, it's not us. We're just a measurement tool providing data. It's them. It's them taking that data and using that data. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. And they used it properly and it showed massive returns.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. From my experience, there is nothing more frustrated than getting a question from a project that you delivered 6 months or 8 months ago. That clearly shows that nobody cared to look at the data and accountability.
Well, you'll appreciate this. A new client we're putting on, their current vendor, who I don't even know who it is, literally delivers a report 4 months after it's done. And I almost fell over. I had to ask him 4 times, are you saying you're still waiting from the report from 2 months ago? They're like, yeah. So we did a pilot and, we got it to them in 5 days and they're like, well, we like that. And I'm like, well, I'd like to say that, we're the best, but I think most people are getting it much quicker than a month and a half. Like, how do you even use that information? It was amazing.
It's history.
Kind of, yeah.
You can frame and put in a picture. So Daniel, speaking about dynamic clients, we are glad to share with our audience that you introduced us one of your clients, and we'll have an exclusive interview at our magazine later this month with the brand Pollo Campero. Can you share a little bit with us about the brand itself?
Yeah, I'll use this story about kind of the brand and how they think, and we're talking about, their stores in the US right now. There's a point they're looking at modifying the beans in a particular market because the demographic in that market likes a different style bean. And the amount of conversation that they had and we had about the bean, the measurement, who we send into measurement, how they measure it. I mean, the attention to detail was so great because they're so concerned about their product and how it's being perceived and how it's going to work and how it's going to come across and how we're going to measure it, and how we're going to collect the data and what we're going to do with it. I mean, it was massive amounts of conversation. And that's the attention to detail that Pollo Campero takes with their food quality and service and their commitment to their team members. So I go back to earlier when I talked about one of the golf clients that I had that was known for 2 things, being really big and really bad service. By the time, they got rolling on service, and a guy named Bill Saline was the one that was responsible for the service components that we worked together with getting the data and all that. They were known for really good service. They were innovative. Like they put things in place. And so that's what Pollo Campero does. Like they're putting things in place that are innovative, but are thoughtful, right? But they're always thinking about their team member. Like, how's this going to affect the team members? How's the team member going to interact? How are they going to be? They know it affects the customer, but the team member is the one that's going to affect the customer. So we need to be thinking about the team member and what it's going to do to take. So when we're with Pollo Campero, they're one of our favorite clients. And when I look at clients, I look for a client, I mentioned this earlier, it's an entrepreneuristic mindset. Like we're going to bring ideas and we are going to bring thoughts and ideas. And we look for the clients that go, that's pretty cool. Let's talk about that. We might not use it, but let's flesh it out. Like the clients that if we bring ideas to and they're like, nah, we're good, we're going great, no problem, we'll do what you need, we're fine, we know where you're at. The clients we're going to spend time with are the ones that want these ideas because we're scouring. Like we're lucky, we're in all those areas that we can see. Pollo Campero looks at all that. So Pollo Campero, we're not just measuring one component, we're measuring all these pieces. We're bringing in all this information. We're helping them understand and dissect what that information means. Like, what does it affect? We have conversations regularly about new things that are going on, different things. How's it happening? Where it's going to go? Always, always, always with the employee mindset in place. Hence appeals, action plans, or issues within reports. I'm watching emails bounce back and forth between our editing team and our main contact there, their team, about what happened in here. Oh, you know what they'll do? If we have a mystery shopper that goes to a location and let's say they order online and get a gift card and they have a bad experience, maybe the gift card didn't work, whatever, we reimburse the shopper, right? They are like, send that shopper another gift card, give them another $20 to go. Like they're concerned about the shoppers. And I'm like, Lori, we're cool. It's the shopper. That's like what they do. But they know that shopper is a customer. Like I remember years ago pitching a large client, everyone knows them. It's a QSR. And I remember talking to them and they said, hey, listen, Dan, we're like a battleship. I think they said aircraft carrier. We're like an aircraft carrier. We do everything in-house. We do all the measurement in-house. We all do this in-house. Great. I appreciate it. Great conversation. A couple days later, I got a letter thanking me for my time and a gift card to their location. Like, and that happened 25 years ago. Like he knows who his customer is too. And that's what Pollo Campero does. And they understand that very clearly and they live and breathe by it.
Yeah, we are looking forward to the business perspective interview at our magazine because it's a business that's family owned and it's over 40 years old. It has almost 400 locations in several countries now. So this will be really interesting to see at our magazine. Yeah. So then I have, this is a great podcast, a great content. Thank you so much. It's so much information. And then I always have one last question for our guests that could somehow, summarize this whole podcast, which is, if you could give just one recommendation for brands that want to excel in their customer experience management programs, what would that one recommendation be?
I would say AI. I would say marry yourself to AI. Understand it, get to know it, understand what and how it works. Like it's not just a GPT wrapper, right? That's not AI. Understand what you think it can do for you and start multiplying that and start working towards it. Get a team that can do it, because whether it's mystery shops you're doing, voice of the customer, collecting your recordings from your drive-throughs, all that is data, and AI is beautifully built to digest that and tell you things that you won't know. Like if we're relying on humans to grab data, we're relying on the human to think. And we got to rely on that human's hopefully in line with what I'm thinking. Like AI and LLM is its own brain, and it can go and get things when you prompt properly and you do the things behind it, it's going to tell you things that you had no clue about what's going on. And so, in this space, QSRs are all faced with similar challenges. I mentioned earlier, they're living in different worlds and playing in different worlds, but they're faced with similar challenges. They have a customer, and the customer in the US wants it delivered fast and good and hot and and some type of experience, but you're being pulled in all these different ways. I go back to where the customer doesn't always know what they want. Right. If the customer knew what they wanted and they were truly in the fact that they wanted a good customer experience, they wouldn't use drive-through. They wouldn't use a third party. They would walk into the restaurant and have a line out the door and say, hey, let's have some face interaction. But that's not reality. And so, those are so many things going on there. But I think, again, AI and understanding what it can do for you to digest the data. So you, one, know intelligently what's happening so you can do your best to stay on top of the changes, maybe ahead of the changes, or make changes that can actually impact some of the things that you're going on. I think that would be the biggest thing that I would share with anybody in this space.
Absolutely. It's extremely important for leaders to educate themselves about AI and particularly how to buy AI projects. And of course, it's also a learning process. So Dan, it was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing such a great insights with your audience, and for also for bringing Pollo Campero on board with us on this episode. So thank you so much for your cooperation and all those insights.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris, Erik, and Emil. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Back to you, Erik.
Dan, before we wrap up this episode, what is the best way for our audience to contact you at Mercantile Systems?
Yeah, our website is www.mercsystems, that's MERC, systems with an S.com. Or feel free to reach out to me. You can connect with me direct, 925-325-9247. That's my cell. Shoot me a text and we'll hear what you want to do and get you in touch with proper team members and go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much once again.
My pleasure.
That wraps up another episode of the Synergistic CX podcast. Visit our website at www.cx-channel.com to download the magazine that we were talking about. That includes this episode's industry study with detailed results and additional commentary and case studies from Dan Cosgrove and the interview with his client, Pollo Campero. Be sure to press that subscribe button and follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or the social media of your preference and stay up to date on our activities. And be sure to leave your questions and comments about what industry you would like to see us explore next. We'll catch you next time, and thank you again for being part of the CX channel where CX professionals converge.